Welcome everyone to today's webinar entitled Implementing a Roof Management Plan at Your Facility. My name is David McCabe. I'm the Director of Professional Development and Virtual Programming for APA. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started today. The webinar recording will be posted on the APA website page under the Continuous Learning tab soon. Professional continuing education certificates are being offered for today's program. Those who indicated they wanted a certificate at registration and meet the requirements will receive a certificate later this afternoon. I also did want to ask that at the end of the webinar, there will be a survey that pops up, so please make sure that you complete that at the end of the webinar. All attendees are in listen-only mode, so please type your questions in the chat box and they will be answered in the order they are received. If we run out of time, we will still have questions. Responses will be sent directly to the person asking the question by our presenters. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce our presenters today. We have Tony Robinson, a Senior Associate, and Alex Agudo, Project Manager with Gale Associates Building Enclosure Consulting and Commissioning Group. So Tony and Alex, thank you so much for being with us today. I will now turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. This is Tony speaking, and I want to thank everyone for attending this presentation on implementing a roof management plan at your facility. I have been in the building enclosure industry for about 38 years, and so happy to be able to share a little bit of my knowledge with you here today. Alex, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit more as well before we get going.
Sure. My name is Alex Agudelo. I graduated with a master's in architecture from the University of South Florida and went immediately into building forensics. I started off in the litigation field with depositions and supporting depositions, and then I slowly transitioned into the design field, and that puts me presently at Gale. So I have about 15 years experience total.
Thank you, Alex. Now we'll get into the presentation on implementing a roof management plan at your facility. Next slide. The learning objectives that we want to try to cover here today, number one is to be able to prioritize your repair or replacement issues on your facility based on a visual evaluation and some of the limited destructive testing. We'll talk a little bit about that in the presentation. And utilizing any type of leak histories, the age of the roof, your repair histories that you might have tracked in your facilities, and the interior space usage. The other learning objective, number two, is to be able to learn to easily update the report that you get from the roof management plan, review your histories, or review any new warranties that you might have, and you can also keep track of your existing warranties as well. Number three, evaluate an existing roof and associated components, or show you some of those things to look for, such as things that happen on the rising walls, your parapets, penetrations, and talk a little bit about drainage. And the fourth and last final objective is to show you a little bit how you can develop a budget with estimates that can be used for your yearly planning over maybe a 10-year, 5-year, 10-year plan on a roof maintenance plans years in advance, so you'll have an idea of how to budget your finances going forward with your roof management plan. So the roof maintenance plan or roof management plan goals, what are the goals for your plan? One of these is to extend the service life of your existing roofs. Obviously, you have assets you have to take, you have to manage and keep track of. You want to extend those service lives as long as possible. And any repairs or that you might have, you want to prioritize those versus replacement. What's needed immediately, or what can you push off down the road? And you can establish a 5 or a 10-year budget plan. Retain your warranty coverage, because warranty, we'll talk about that more in depth, because manufacturers, when you do a roof replacement, have certain things they want you as facility owners to do to maintain your warranty coverage. And the roof management plan begins before the roof is actually installed. It actually starts during the design process. And then we'll talk a little about the construction of it and the maintenance of it. So that brings us to why establish a roof management plan in the first place, and why maintain your roof assets. Well, we know you as facility owners, facility managers at these your colleges and universities, you have a lot of buildings that you're responsible for and you have to maintain. And roof replacement costs can be very expensive, especially, like I say, on your institutional level that you guys are at. And these costs can easily exceed anywhere from $30 to $40 per square foot for roof replacement. So with that being said, let's take a look at a quick little example here of University A. Has multiple facilities, about 94 buildings. They encompass about 282 roof areas, which adds up to about 1.2 million square feet of roofing. So you have a lot that you have to address and have to maintain. So if we look at that, the average age of the roof at this particular University A is 18.38 years. And with 18.38 years, the average cost per square foot for replacement is $30 a square foot. The value for those assets, you're around $36 million. That's a large chunk of your budget. And I don't think many of you have a $36 million roof replacement budget on an annual basis. So a roof management plan can help you create a budget, maintain your roofs in the process. So that's what this presentation is pretty much about. Now, Alex is going to show you some of the issues that can affect the cost of your roof replacements.
Thank you, Tony. Yes, so Tony gave us a great example there. He's showing us at $30 a square foot, but there's a lot of other factors that can affect the roof cost that can occur in your facilities. Things like access, work hours, safety, whether it's the safety of the workers or safety of the users below, small size, we'll get into that a little more, fume odor, right? So the chemicals or the material that's being used and the proximity of where that roof is being redone, congested, meaning the roof areas, how congested they are, the working conditions, interruptions that can occur throughout the construction, or even non-roof issues and walls. And again, we'll get into that a little bit more. So here's an example of access and work hours. So in this particular scenario, we can see that the university is situated in a central part of town at a corner condition, and you have these avenues that run parallel to the university there. In order to bring materials in, you'd have to shut down the roads to get the materials to their primary location. So that's something that would take time and planning and can affect the cost. But if you look at the left, somewhere right about here, you can see there's a pedestrian bridge. A lot of campuses will have pedestrian bridges, which are obstacles in the way. Again, that needs to be planned out for, which can cost money as to where all this material is going. Once you get the material to the place, then you have to figure out where you're going to put it, where you're going to stage it. Do you have enough space to stage that actual material? A lot of times you'll have to ration it out with the manufacturer to make sure that they hold on to some of it while you continue to install the roof. But staging dumpsters and all that other stuff is something that will affect the roof. Work hours are also very important. To the left over here, you can see a large tower. It's a residential tower. So the work hours are going to be either during the day, or are they going to be at night? Are you going to shut down a classroom during the day, or are you going to perhaps close down a section of the residential so that you can make noise at night? Again, these are all things that will affect the cost, the ultimate cost of the roof. Small size, remember I said we'd go back to that. So here's a small roof area. Typically, you would think a small roof area is going to cost you less, right? In this case, it's not going to cost you less. You can see that this gentleman here is having to be tied very close to the building, so the safety line can be effective, but it also restricts his movement. So it's going to take more time for him to install that roof. Not only that, but anything as the smallest thing, like a bucket or whatever, is going to get in his way. You can see all his materials have been pushed to the side there. So he has to coordinate that properly, make sure the materials aren't falling, make sure that the materials are staged in the right place. So this small roof area, while typically we would think would be significantly less, because of the safety and the small size that's required, the safety that's required in the small size of the roof, can be significantly more. Interruptions from construction. Everybody knows that when construction is occurring, things happen. In this case, they were caught in a rain. So maintenance here has come in and put a bladder system to catch all the water that's coming in. But the question then becomes, what happened to the space below? Well, that space below had to be closed down. But what area is that anyways? So you're looking at a library. So that section of the library has now been closed down because of that interruption. But now you've also created property damage. So those books that were there have now been soaked and they're no longer in production, which is, again, another added cost, another value that has to be thought of when these things are coming around. So budget allocation at US facility managers have very much a lot of pressure to spend wisely and to manage your assets properly. And this is why we're doing this, so you can manage your assets properly. But there's always, and you always have to think about it, unanticipated expenditures, right? So natural events or emergencies that can happen. In this case, we can see a wind blow off or a hurricane that's come. So on the left side, you can see that it started tearing the roof off from the corner. Of course, the corner is always the high wind condition, but it's slowly peeling it off. In the center there, it probably picked up that roof, which means that it probably will need to be entirely replaced. You can't just go back and nail this back down and say, my roof is good. On the right, you can see that the equipment was very well fastened to the roof, but the roof was not very well fastened to the structure. So it rolled it all up. Again, a costly thing, an emergency that happens just out of nowhere. So the goal is always to extend the service life of the roof with maintenance. But let's look at maintenance versus neglect. So remember that hurricane we talked about? What about heavy rains or just a rain event? When you neglect the maintenance, in this case, maintenance has not unclogged the roofs, and now a heavy rain has come in. So you can see the water that's accumulated. You're measuring it. You're looking at about 2 inches of water. At 2 inches of water, 10 by 10 foot area, you're probably about 1,000 pounds just for that one area. And the question becomes, can that structure sustain that additional weight? Well, that guy was probably going to find out pretty quick, so I wouldn't want to be him. Ultimately, this is what we're trying to avoid, right? Roof collapse. We don't know exactly what happened here, but chances are that it was not planned. So let's look at something a little bit more simple, a little more mundane, right? Not so catastrophic. This is called a pitch pan. This is basically where a lot of penetrations will come into one location, a tube, and then that tube is filled with the pourable sealant, and that sealant is meant to keep the water out. In this case, that sealant is starting to go into the area, and the arrows are showing these small holes that are occurring, but it might be something that's easily overlooked. If you go underneath the deck, though, we can see here that that inundation that's occurring is the pitch, and it's starting to pour into the space below. That space below is another ceiling. Now, the ceiling below it may not be giving signs, but obviously you can see the accumulation of water here, which means that it's most likely rusting the deck from the top first. So by the time you get around to it, or by the time it starts showing signs that there's something wrong, you may have caused significant damage to that area. But the roofs are typically out of sight, out of mind. So let's just look at typical conditions that can occur because these things are out of sight, out of mind. So we think, oh, well, you know, the roof is we're not doing anything crazy up there. It's just sitting there. It should be fine. But things like UV degradation, the sun can destroy the roof very quickly. That's one of the biggest culprits. You have wind, snow, ice, hail, so a lot of thermal loads. New equipment penetrations, whenever you have some, maybe a mini split goes up or there's an additional equipment that goes up, how are those being put in? And of course, you've got HVAC workers because you're maintaining the equipment on the roof. What are they doing up there? Lack of maintenance. So UV degradation. UV degradation can occur, in this case, at the weak point, which is the seam. Unfortunately, when this roof was put on, they did something called a reverse lap, which means once that seam started opening, the water was flowing in the direction of the arrow and it started catching that opening and compounding the issue. So here's an area where there's less UV. That lack of UV has now caused vegetative growth to occur on that roof. That's not a green roof, obviously. So then now you've got that whole area covered in vegetation. That vegetation has actually got roots that go down into the root system, and if you were to pull any of that, you're going to destroy the roof and cause an immediate leak. So in this case, we had to replace the entire roof area. UV or no UV, clogged gutters are very typical. Clogged gutters can lead to poor drainage in tight locations, such as tight facilities. A lot of the drainage goes below grade. So if there's a gutter system that is clogged and it starts pouring over the edge, well, it'll start eroding that area around the building very quickly, which can start creating a reverse slope towards the building. And now you've got water infiltration occurring at the base of the building and other such issues. Wind, snow, ice, this is kind of a thermal thing that occurs in this EPDM roof system because the cold and the heat starts switching around or starts changing the expansion and contraction that's going on in the roof. The seams, again, become susceptible to this movement. So after 10, 12 years, many times you'll have to come in and restrip those areas, but you've got to be able to look for it. So maintenance maintains the warranted asset value of the roof. So let's look at a case study for maintenance versus neglect. So let's look at 1996 infrared results. You're looking at a 65,000 square foot roof. You've got 1,155 square feet of wet insulation at $15 a square foot for replacement. The cost of neglect is going to be $17,300. Okay, so you don't do anything. 3 years later, you leave it alone, it starts getting worse. Now you're at 6,160 square feet. Again, still at $15 a square foot, you're at $92,300. Okay, so let's just go 2 years out. 2 years out, it's getting even worse. Now you're getting real bad. So you're at 27,200 square feet. Total cost of neglect, $400,000. 1 year later, you have to replace the roof. $900, almost $1 million to replace that roof. Let's look at it a little bit different. This graph is a little bit of a different view, but let's see if I can explain this a little better. The green graphs you're looking at is an unmaintained roof. So we start at year 0, you're looking at $800,000 to replace that roof. Year 5, you don't do anything. Year 10, you realize that you have to do something. $400,000 to fix it. That's pretty expensive. Year 15, you still don't learn your lesson. You go on to year 20. Now, in order to replace it, you're at $1.4 million. Throughout the life of that roof, you're going to spend $2.6 million for the total cost versus a maintained roof. You're at $800,000 to replace it. 5 years into it, you spend $25,000. 10 years, you're at $35,000. 15, you're at $50,000. At 20 years, you're at $1.2 million. So that's less than 1.4, but the total cost, you're looking at almost $500,000 in the total cost versus on a maintained or a non-maintained roof.
And what you have to keep in mind too is that we're only using that $15 a square foot cost, but over the course of 20 years, you know, the price is actually, the square foot cost is definitely going to increase. But just wanted to show you at the same cost per square foot that what the difference would be, and it would be astronomically different because of the increase in the roof replacement costs over that time period.
But I have a warranty. Everybody thinks the warranty is going to cover it. I love this one. Warranted roofs will last under normal conditions with periodic maintenance. They're not all inclusive, only materials provided by the manufacturer. They're easily voided. We'll look into that. Covers leaks only, not replacement of wet materials. So let's look at an example. Here's a sample warranty of a Golden Seal total roof system warranty. But if we look a little closer, we can see paragraph 1 in the parentheses, or yes, in the quotations, excuse me. It says, this warranty shall be null and void if after any installation of the roofing system by an authorized roofing applicator, there are any alterations or repairs made on or through the roof or objects such as, but not limited to, structures, fixtures, utilities placed upon or attached to the roof without first obtaining written authorization from the manufacturer. So what does that mean? You can't even go up there and put something down without telling the manufacturer ahead of time. Otherwise, you take the chance of voiding that warranty. So how valuable, how much are you actually going to depend on that warranty when it all comes to the end there? But our in-house staff maintains the roof, okay? As we saw in the warranty, It requires specialized training because you have to be authorized within that manufacturer, specialized materials. We all know that the in-house staff is going to grab the first thing off the shelf because that's what's open, that's what worked on the previous roof, but it may not be compatible with this roof, right? Repairs may compound the problem. Maintenance is going to go up anywhere where there's a hole. They're just going to fill it in with sealant. But that's not always how it works. A lot of building systems are designed to have those holes so that water can come out. So if maintenance is going up and sealing it, then they're compounding the problem, again, voiding the warranty. Wrong materials can be voided in the warranty. We'll look at that real quick. And then contractors may not be approved by the manufacturer, just like your staff. Here's an example of wrong materials being used. So on the left, you have an EPDM membrane, and then they went out to any store, any typical home store, repair store, and they picked up some peel and stick. It's like a tape, basically, to cover the seal or to cover the rip and seal it off from the water. In this case, it's not adhering properly. Why? Because it's the wrong material. That particular material may not adhere. Perhaps the actual membrane needed to be cleaned a specific way. Maybe it needed a primer. Either way, it's not working. Temporary repairs, maintenance goes up, they fix the leak. It's not documented, but the leak has gone away. Nobody's saying anything, the problem is solved, nobody's looking at it, right? Until it stops working. Then you say, oh, well, now we can't fix it. So you call the manufacturer comes out and says, I'm sorry, your warranty is voided. That temporary repair has now turned into a permanent repair with the wrong materials being used. Again, something that we have to be careful for. So let's start initiating the roof management plan. So how are we going to do that? First, we're going to compile all your record data. Then we're going to perform an interior leak audit. We're going to perform visual evaluations of the roof. We're going to prepare conditions reports of each building and develop a roof rating system. And then we're going to document this all online. We're going to go into all of these, and we're even going to show you, Tony's going to show you a case study here at the very end on how we can do that. So compiling data, what does that mean? Basically, you're taking all your plans, your existing specifications, your warranties, whether they're still active or not. You want to know how many years are left on it or how many years has been out of warranty, your repair records, all that information that you've had sitting in different locations. You want to start compiling that so you can put it all together so you can get a large macro view of what's going on at your facilities. You're going to perform an interior leak audit. You're going to look at some things like on the top left here, you can see that there's moisture going into that window. Well, that just means that that seal's been broken. So that window is no longer as energy efficient as it's intended to be. Other leaks that could be occur in moisture. On the top right, you can see that this was occurring below a stairwell. Something as simple as ceiling tiles can also indicate things that are going on, things that you're going to want to make note of, keep track of, and start documenting so that you can start putting everything together on a macro view again. For a visual evaluation, you're going to get up on the roof. You're going to identify defects. So on a low slope roof, built up roof, typical types of defects that you're going to see are going to be membrane granular loss. The granular loss is a little sand that you get up on the roof, just like your shingles. That little sand is actually protecting your roof. If that goes away, the sun compounds the problem, and then that asphalt starts degrading very quickly. So that sand is very important. It's particularly around equipment. We know equipment is going to be serviced. A lot of times what we will do is we will put service pads around there because we know that whoever's up there is fixing it is going to be walking around, dropping screwdrivers, moving stuff. So we will protect that area even more. But again, granular loss, very common. Excessive patching, in this case, you can see that there's been a number of patches going on. So let's document that and see what, there might be a bigger problem, but we won't know until we actually show the whole macro view. Punctures, you're looking for any kind of splitting that might occur. Vegetative growth, again, we went over that. On the bottom two, this is kind of interesting because you may be out in the total daylight and the roof looks fine. You didn't get off the ladder. It looks good. There's nothing wrong with it, right? But there's actually blisters there. In this case, we're looking at an image with the light source from above, and it looks fine. As soon as we drop that light source, which is the next image of the blisters, you can see how bad those blisters are. I'm sure some of you have run across when you're walking on a roof and then you kind of stumble over something and you feel that blister. That's exactly what we're looking for. Ponding water, you want to make note of those areas as well. Visual evaluation of low slope roofs, you want to look for fasteners backed out, puncturing in the membranes, open flashings that can occur. You can see that there's no sealant at the top of that all thread. Open seams we talked about. A lot of times we just go and just with our fingers to see if they're open. And again, we're documenting ponding water at these locations just as well. But don't forget the walls. The walls also contribute to the roof. So a lot of times other consultants will come in and replace the roof. The owner will say, hey, it's still leaking. And the consultant says, well, your roof is under warranty. You'll have to go to the contractor. Maybe they didn't pay attention to the walls. That's happened a number of times. We had to come in and fix other consultants' work. So pay attention to those walls. There are a lot of things like deteriorated through wall flashings, failed sealant, deteriorated masonry joints if that mortar's falling apart. Determination bars have a sealant, obviously, so what's the condition of that? Coping terminations, again, don't forget the walls, so that where are those walls dying? You can see there's a peel and stick there, so they've had a problem. The transition there's been a number of repairs there. Obviously, that's a very difficult transition. You photograph that, you document that location so that you can input all that information. Low window flashings, modern roofs were very flat. Nowadays, everything has to have a drainage to it, so it has to have a slope. How is that going to impact your windows? What are you going to do with those windows? Do you need to replace them? And then expansion joint, you can see some racking going on here. Obviously, they didn't account for that expansion joint. They just roofed right over it, but the building continues to move. Additional evaluation options can be a controlled leak testing, just spraying water on it. Destructive testing, it is, you open it up and you look at it. Infrared thermography, this aids in destructive testing. Once you kind of identified what the thermal image looks like and you want to identify the location of where it's occurring, you open it up and you can see, verify the infrared thermal. And then a Delmhorst meter is just basically you're checking the resistance and you're seeing if the material actually has moisture in it. So you're doing this visual evaluation, but you're documenting it as you go. So here's an example of that documentation. You have a roof plan area and each little bubble will indicate a defect. So let's look a little closer at that. Roof legend defect, here it is. OM, something as simple, just, you can make it up. OM, in this case, means open, torn, sliced, punctured membrane. The number indicates how many linear feet. Once you start inputting that, taking one step at a time, you'll be able to gather all the information and make a total summary of everything so that you can start putting your budget costs together. Here's another one, open base flashings. Again, number indicates linear feet. Broken shingles indicates how many units, so you can quantify all that. And then you have your macro view, all to create a conditions report. That report would have the roof description, the observed defects, the summary of opinions, right? Whether repair or replacement options, which one do you want to do? Budgetary cost estimates, and you have your roof plan area, and you start inputting that all into the summary of the roof areas. You also want to look at developing priority plan. So you want to prioritize your replacement by age, the leak history, the interior space usage. Is it a maintenance closet or is it your boss's office? Visual evaluation, which is what we just did. And then of course the inner owner input. Go ahead and tell your boss that you're going to replace the maintenance closet roof before his office. And I think he will disagree with you on that. Here's an aged roof with a lot of repair history. In this case, they were repairing so many blisters that you might as well just replace the roof. Leak history at this library, the complete perimeter is leaking there. So how good are those books if the people can't come in and actually study? Interior space usage, again, is it a laboratory or is it a maintenance closet? What type of equipment are you using in there? Again, to compile the data, put it all together. You're photographing the conditions, you're marking these roof areas, and then you're compiling the data, you're getting your owner inputs to develop a priority list of everything. So you've got your red, which is your high priority, your yellow, which is your medium priority, and your green, which is your low priority. And once you have all that information, you can see a macro view of your facilities. And now you can see the red is high priority, the orange is medium, and the green is low. But because these roof areas are next to each other, you may be able to save money by doing one roof area that's adjacent to the other. At this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Tony so he can talk about roof management programs.
Thanks, Alex. Alex has gone over thoroughly the procedures for trying to create that management plan, and what we feel that roof management programs actually begin at the design stage. And what do we mean by that? Let's take a look at this, for example. Next slide. The design parameters that you have to think about when a roof is being replaced or considered being replaced. You have to design for positive drainage per the current building code. As you see, when you have the drainage system there in the photograph, the drains could have either been undersized, but we did see that they were clogged, which would cause issues. You have to make sure that you design for thermal and vapor drive, depending on which region you're in, because in the southern regions, obviously it's different. The vapor drive is different than when you're in the northern regions. And you determine the appropriate wind uplift. Again, in the southern regions where the hurricanes are more prominent, you have to take into considerations a higher wind uplift. But we're now seeing that hurricanes actually moving up toward the northeast and causing, so you have to design for those hurricanes there as well. And in the Midwest, you have to deal with tornadoes and things of that nature. So it depends on the region, but you definitely have to design according to the wind exposure that your roof is going to be put up against. You have to determine the typical rooftop traffic. Any traffic is going to be up there. There's a lot of equipment up there. A lot of maintenance personnel will have to go up on the roof. And if so, you have to design the specific requirements for those instances. And we'll show you a couple of those here on the next slide. There are numerous types of roofing systems for low slope roofing. You have low slope roofing options. You have fluid ply membranes, thermoset single ply membranes. You have thermoplastic single ply membranes, the old style built up roofing with gravel surfacing, and modified bitumen membranes. And typically today you're seeing more of the modified bitumen and the thermoplastic single ply roofs. So if we look at this photograph here, if you say roofs start into the design phase, the roof maintenance plan just starts in the design phase. You look at these two roof areas. What type of roofing system do you think you want to use on this? On the photograph on the right, you have a lot of equipment on there. You have skylights, so you're going to have a lot of traffic. So in this particular case, gravel surface built-up roofing was installed there. So you can drop tools and won't affect it. You got a lot of traffic; it's not going to affect it. But you have a problem of trying to chase down issues with the gravel surfacing covering over the roof membrane and around penetrations. And on the left, you don't have a lot of equipment up there on the low slope roof, so you can utilize a single ply thermoplastic or PVC type membrane on that easily to identify any issues that might occur on that roofing system. But again, you don't get a lot of traffic on that. So you have to determine all of that up front. What's the best scenario, what's the best system to use for the situation. Next slide. And here's a sample of a modified bitumen. It's a little bit more robust than a thermoplastic or a thermoset roof. Most of them have granule surfacing, and you see the little small chiller plant there on top. A cooling tower that has maintenance needs to go around that. You have some additional walk pads. So you do know you have some traffic there that's going to be occurring, and you made provisions for any maintenance personnel that go around the equipment to protect the roofing surface as well. And then you have to think about repair considerations. If something does happen, what if you do have a wind blow off, as you see here, something that was unexpected? will you be able to repair that pretty quickly? That's a single ply EPDM roof, and you could quickly take another sheet of that and roll across to protect your roof temporarily. You have to deal with the drainage. We talked about that enough already, and you have to deal with the gravity loads, your snow loads. Alex talked about that earlier as well. But all of that is taken into consideration when a roof replacement is being designed. Good, next slide. So roof management programs, they extend they'll help you extend the service life of your roof. And how will they do that? Let's look at this, show you, for example, when you're maintaining your roofs, you have a in-house maintenance, or you have a contract with a roofer or whomever it is to maintain your roofs on an annual basis or a 6-month basis, but you're actually out there looking at it to make sure that you don't have any issues that can be compounded over the course of time. You can establish that continued maintenance plan easily by, here's some sample forms that we're showing here on the screen that maintenance staff can have. They can do a quick roof condition review. You go out there, you already know the name of the roof, the name of the building, the name of how much the square footage on the roof area. You input all of that information on this form, and then you do a little condition review. What's the condition of the flashings or the penetrations, all those defects that you were looking at earlier in those photographs that were causing problems to the roof. So you can document all of that. And the reason you're documenting all that, obviously, is to input that data into a roof maintenance plan. And you can edit this list, the information periodically over time. Once something gets fixed, you update the list if it's been taken care of, so you can have a record of it. And of course, when something is fixed, the cost goes down for the repair portions of the project. Next slide. So the ultimate goal then is to achieve maximum service life with the least possible cost. Like we said earlier, not too many people have a $36 million budget for each year for doing roof replacement or repairs. So let's take a look at this particular case study that went through the roof maintenance or management plan. Here's the multiple facilities for an owner. You got 17 locations, which encompasses numerous buildings. Next slide. So there's a quick summary of the assets. They put in all the information on the buildings, and you can pull out whether you do this on an Excel sheet or internally on a software, it allows you to quickly look at your assets. You have it documented, what year roof was replaced. You'll have what the cost was, what's the warranty period on that, and you just an overview of your assets once you've gathered all that data. And just a quick place to keep that is, like I say, either an Excel file or on a software-based program. Next slide. So here's an example where in that facility, they had all of those buildings, those 17 buildings, went through, did all the defects, put all the information in the maintenance plan, and said, what's the cost for repairing this area? What's the cost for replacing this building? What's the cost for all of these associated things that you put in the plan, and you came out and realized, okay, wow, over a 10-year period, these are the costs that I need to spend. It says, well, in year 2021, you have your budget is 1.9. But if you look at year 2030, your budget's $18 million. That's a pretty big budget amount to tackle in 1 year. So when Alex talked about at the end of the roof maintenance plan, once you put in all of the data, you have that owner input. So you go back to, as the owner, you have your opportunity now based off all the information that's been gathered. You said, okay, well, I can't bite off this much in 1 year. What can we do to even this out a little bit better over the course of time? Let's change priorities on some of these. I know the program said do this, but is there something we can do to even this out? Well, went into the program, and then they came up with this next slide here that shows how everything was evened out. Now your maximum budget doesn't even go over $6 million in a year. Your maximum is about 4.9 over the course of 20 years. That's a little bit more maintainable. All of that because you adjusted a few priorities and did some repairs based off of the roof maintenance plan. So now it becomes a workable and doable plan for the course of 10 years. So that was done on that particular project to give the owner a quick summary of their roof assets. So that's what can be done with a roof management plan. Now, here's an example of a actual software-based plan that's out there. There are several that are out there, but here's one in particular that has been utilized for one owner to do a 5-year projected cost of their assets from year 2020 over to, and the bar graph shows 2020 to 2024. And as you can see, that $18 million spike there in 2023, they did come back and do some adjustments to make it, again, bearable to work with. But at least you can see, like a picture's worth 1,000 words. You can say, hey, wow, I see what I need to spend. I see what's going to be my biggest year. It also talked about, shows you here in the bottom left corner of this image, the type of roof areas. You have a built-up roof area, the built-up roofing. There's a certain percentage of that. Then it breaks it down in modified bitumen. The colors are a little bit off on the screen here, but you can see it breaks it off per roof area, roof type, membrane type. So you see, again, pictures worth 1,000 words. You see what's the square footage of your assets per type of roofing system. And the square foot areas has been located on here. The built-up roof having 79,000 square feet, almost 80,000 square feet of built-up. Slate roofing, almost 9,000 square feet of slate roofing. So all of that information is at your fingertips to see where your assets are and the cost for the projected cost for replacing those assets. Next slide. So some of the things that were put in, Alex showed a photograph where it shows the defects and it showed you the amount of square footage of that particular defect. Well, you're able to input that information again into a program. It says refasten loose edge metal into the solid support. And you're going to replace stripping felts and surfacing material. A maintenance personnel could take that information from the maintenance plan, management plan, and go and make those corrections through the course of the year. You can pull out these issues that need to be fixed. And once those issues are fixed, go back into the program, say, this was taken care of, this was completed, and now that budgetary cost for overall replacement comes down because it's not a problem anymore. And all of this is done via a software program. Next one. Here's again a summary of that information put into this computer format. You have your action items. What do you need to do? You have active leaks. You identified those where it says in the red area there, you identified the active items for the active leaks. Any clogged drains have been identified. You can identify any deteriorated gutters and things of that nature. You can add your roof plans into this. Photographs of the defects can be added as well. And then again, it gives you a list of all of the types of membranes and warranties that you have associated with your assets. So warranty information. Alex went over that very well. What manufacturers typically require you to do annual inspections on your roofs to maintain your warranty, and that information can be put into your management plan as well. And it'll let you know, hey, this roof is going to be out of warranty in 2 years or in 3 years, whatever the case may be. And you know, if you're going up to do some repairs or different things, and if it's still under warranty, you know, you need to have someone that's certified and that can make the repairs that won't affect the warranty. So again, all of this information becomes right to your fingertips and helps you with maintaining what needs to be maintained, when it needs to be repaired, when it needs to be replaced, all in one location. Not like we used to do in the old days where we had manual stacks and stacks of 3-ring binders that had the information in it. Now everything's computer based. And here's an example of how some of the software can show issues or defects that were found during your visual evaluation observation. There was a deteriorated plumbing vent there on the left. A maintenance facility guy or a repair guy came up, fixed that, put another photograph showing that it was fixed. And like I say, the program will update. There's no longer any issues with this type of repair. And this could have happened over the course of, could have been number of these vent pipes that needed to be repaired. But now that comes off of your budget because they've been repaired. It won't affect any more water intrusion coming into the building because it's been fixed, and the long-term costs are going to go down because you stayed on top of it. Some of the other photographs, again, typical defects that you see and things that you can input right into the software.
I just want to point out. I just want to point out there that the photos actually have a date. So this document, this document becomes a living document. So every time you photograph something and you put it into the program, you can see what the condition was before that. So if it was a repair, you can see what it looked like before to see if it was somewhat a lot deteriorated, because once you put the repair on it, you're not going to be able to see it without taking that repair off. So this living document will also give you the historic information that you can, again, put everything in one place so you have it at your fingertips.
And so then what are the benefits of a roof maintenance or roof management plan? Obviously, to extend the service life of your existing roofs without having to do a high cost replacement. You want to extend the life as much as possible. Maintain your asset value of your warranty roofs. You've spent money over on a 20-year roof and you've spent all this money to repair it, replace it. You want to make sure that that asset still is warranted and there's value in that warranty because you maintain it. You, again, can't say extending the service life enough in doing a roof management plan. And it also allows for long-term budgeting. Like I said, you don't have all of those millions and millions of dollars each year, but once you have your maintenance plan or your management plan in place, now you can budget, well, I know what I need this year. I know what I need next year, and I know what I need the third year. I know what I need in the 10th year. You can budget a lot more easily. You can do it much easier. And you know how it is with accounting. The accountants, they like to see stuff in black and white. And you bring something to the table to your accounting department or the budgeting department that shows, hey, I've done my due diligence, and this is what I need, and this is why I need it. It's pretty hard to say no, you can't get the funding for that. It also, when you're doing the maintaining of your assets and your roofs, it reduces the interruptions of operations. You don't have those leaks because those roofs are not out of sight, out of mind anymore. You're staying on top of it. So you don't have things that are interrupting operations. You're not having to go in and replace equipment because something got wet, computers got wet, or these other equipment got wet. You don't have to deal with that because you're on top of it. It eliminates the emergency funding of prematurely failure roof systems. If a roof system has not been maintained, and you may not even get a hurricane, you may just get a little wind event. It could cause damages because you had some areas that weren't secure anymore or weren't leak proof anymore. And most of all, the number one thing is it saves you money. I always look at it like a car. If you take a car and you just bought your brand new car and you're just going to drive it and never do any type of maintenance to it, that car is not going to last you very long. But if you continue to do what the manufacturers ask you to do and change the oil and keep the tire pressure up and do all of those things to maintain that vehicle can last you a long time. So the same thing with the roof management plan. That's the same principle. You do the things that you know you need to do to maintain the roof, and it's going to last you for a while. Next slide.
This one was the one I threw in there at the last second, Tony.
Sure.
This was kind of fun. When I was putting the slide, or helping put the slideshow together, one of the slides I couldn't find an image for, so I was trying to find a stock photo of a facilities operations manager, so one of you all, compiling their records of the buildings, the plans. So when I did that, I said, Google's not giving me what I need. I'm just going to ask AI to see what that looks like. And apparently AI has shown your work environment to look like this. But then I realized that my prompt was wrong. I had to actually clarify and say that you guys are now implementing a roof management plan, and this is what it gave us. So obviously AI knows what it's talking about. So yeah, that's what I got there, Tony.
Well, thanks for that, Alex, because AI is is the big buzzword right nowadays. So I guess AI got it right on this one, that a roof management plan is very effective and can be effective in maintaining your roof assets. So with that, we'll say thank you and we'll open it up to any questions that you might have.
Okay, well, Terry and Alex, thank you so much. There is a couple questions. There's one that was more of a comment, but a question, but it says an irony is an operating budget may not be funded to support maintenance over 20 years, but a deferred maintenance budget might. In those cases, the roofs will be let go in order to qualify for deferred maintenance funding. So I don't know if you have any comment on that, but that was a comment that somebody had made in the chat.
No, I don't have anything to add to that, but that is a good point that they make.
Okay. So we do have a couple questions. One, it says, with a roof management plan in place, does my roof need to be evaluated each year?
The answer to that is typically yes, because manufacturers, like I said, in the warranty stage of things, if you have roofs that are under warranty, manufacturers want you to have an annual observation or inspection on your roofs to maintain that warranty. And we also, in our opinion, you should also take a look at them after any type of unusual weather event, because you don't know what could have happened during that weather event that could have damaged your roofing system. So again, warranties have disclaimers for weather events as well. So you want to definitely, if not after them, but definitely on an annual basis.
Usually whenever, speaking of weather events, usually whenever we have the opportunity to warn our client or to give advice to our clients, of course, they're very busy when a hurricane's coming. We've advised them to take photos before the hurricane so that they know the condition of it, and then after the hurricane, just so that you have proof as to what is occurring.
And that's a good point, Alex, because not only on that annual inspection on the warranty aspect of things, typically when you do have, let's say, a major weather event, you do have something like that, insurance companies get involved, FEMA might get involved at facilities, and they're going to want to see some background data. Was the roof maintained or not? And we've seen in instances where some insurance companies have funded because it was maintained, there was documentation, and some have fought back and said, well, you can't prove to me what the condition was in before this storm came. So it helps in that regard as well. You know, they don't, you pay for the insurance, but they don't want to pay you. So any documentation that you have and can continue to have over the course of the life of your roof is a benefit.
Okay, thanks. I actually kind of have two questions that are the same, so I'm going to kind of summarize them. It says, can you provide a rough budget number for developing a roof management plan by your company?
Oh, that's a great question. It typically, it is obviously it's going to depend on a lot of the factors of the size of the facility, the access, again, for us as well, to just even get up on and move around. So I would really like to take that one offline if you could, if whoever asked that one, just to get more detail, so I don't just throw a number out there that kind of everybody jumps on and say, oh, this is great, and then all of a sudden it's not great.
Okay. Well, are there some just typical costs, maybe not dollar numbers, but what would be the typical type of things that would go into contributing to what it would cost? Is there any specifics like that?
Well, like I said, the specifics for going into it would be the number of facilities and the access of getting to those roof areas. If it's will high reaches be required? You know, you can do drones and things of that nature as well. Or there's a lot of equipment up there. Are there any operations that are going to have you to start, stop at the facility? I know sometimes when you're doing something like that in higher education, you have certain buildings that can't be accessed at certain times. So a lot of those factors go into it. But maybe, I guess, to throw a general cost, I don't know, I would say 15, 20 cents a square foot. I'm just throwing something out there right now, but somewhere around there.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll leave another move. That was all the questions we have, but I'll leave another we still have a couple minutes, but I'll just leave a minute or two to see if there's any other questions. If not, just a reminder that the recording will be made available within a few days. So it may be a little delayed compared to normal, but it definitely will be up there soon. So we will have that on APA's website. And also just a reminder at the end, you will have a survey that will come up, that'll pop up. If you could please fill that out to give our to give our presenters some feedback there. With that, I'm not seeing any other questions. I just want to double check one more time before I just do another statement. They just said the information was wonderful, so they thanked you for the information there. Let's see, is there anything else?
Thank you. But I would just reiterate right at the end as we're closing then that there are numerous ways to do a roof management plan. But the wave of the future to me that I've seen over my career is getting your data input into some sort of software or online based system to allow you immediate access actually to not only yourselves but other staff as well. And it'll, as Alex said, it's a living document. It will always have the information in there, and every time you update something, it will be updated and you will get actual budget numbers based for what you need to do on your facilities.
Okay, great. We had one last minute question come in, so I will do that because I know we're almost at the top of the hour. It said, we have issues with roof drains being too high during new roof installs. How do we get the contractor to correct that?
Good question. Typically, if you're having problems with that, and it's a new roofing system, and the drains are too high, typically what we would do, if there's insulation or some sort of thermal barrier, thermal insulation that you're putting on the roof system, we'll do what we call a drain sump. You create a sump around the drains. That will definitely lower the drain instead of trying to just keep the insulation and everything else flush with the drain. And sometimes when they're going back, putting the membrane and then sit the drain in, then you put the ring around it, it does raise the level of that. So a roof drain sump would help alleviate that.
Okay, thank you. And we are out of time there. So thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate your information, some great information there. And thank you all for joining us, for taking time out of your day to join us. And I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks again to everyone for attending.
Thank you.